Hello dear! Welcome! How may I help you? Oh really? If you are interested, first let us have some activity before we proceed. Are you ready? Turn on your camera and show your hands like this. Come on! Turn on your camera. Be confident. Good. You are doing great. Now, when you hear a statement that you can feel and relate to, put a finger down. Like this. I know many of you are familiar with this trend. Again, when you hear a statement that you can feel and relate to, put a finger down. Listen carefully and be honest. Put a finger down questions. Ready your hands? Number 1. If you do not know your purpose in life. If you are afraid in future. If you are not feeling safe. If you are not trusting the process, rhythm, or flow of your life. If you do not have enough confidence and love in yourself. If you do not have any life goals this year 2022. If you fear of missing out or running out of time among others. If you feel upset because of something unexpected. If you find yourself unable to cope with your responsibilities. And if you feel that you are alone. Now we're done. How was the feeling? Have you discovered or realized something about yourself? How many fingers did you put down? If you relate to the most of the statements, maybe I must say you are questioning your existence in life. Do not worry. We will answer your unanswered thoughts. If you are not sure with your existence, we can integrate the existential therapy to know the needed solutions. But first, let me expound to you its history and background. What is existential therapy? Existential therapy tries to help people find meaning and purpose in their lives. It seeks to end the fear of the unknown. So when you ask yourself, who am I? What is the essence of life? Existential therapy finds a way to answer those questions. Who proposed this theory? So one of the famed person of this therapy is Rollo. Rollo was a 20th century psychologist who played central roles both in developing and popularizing existential psychology. He was born in 1909 in Ada, Ohio. He attributed his interest in psychology to his troubled family life and discordant relationship of his parents. And his primary aim was to understand the underlying mechanism and reality behind human suffering and crisis. He did this by combining elements of humanism with existentialism in his approach to the therapy. Now let us move on to the historical background of existential therapy. So as I said earlier, Rollo is an American psychologist who would become one of the existential movement's biggest proponent. Attributed the introduction of existentialist idea in the United States to the famed psychologist and philosopher William James. Throughout the 1920s and 1930s, existentialism was being quietly introduced primarily in university classroom. And also, noted professionals such as Viktor Frankl were beginning to introduce existentialism to the world through their writings and lectures. It was not until May and fellow psychologists like Abraham Maslow and Hermann Felfey participated in the American Psychological Association, or also known as APA, Symposium on Existential Psychology and Psychotherapy on September 5, 1959, that the idea of existential therapy or psychology and its term began to reach the forefront of psychological thought and practice. After that symposium, the term existentialism had become one of the buzzwords of psychology in the 1960s. As you heard, to better understanding, Rollo is not the only proponent, but he is just one of the biggest existential movement's proponents. So like Rollo, Viktor Frankl also introduced the existential psychologies or existentialism through his writings and lectures. In addition, if you are familiar with the thoughts or the statement, I exist therefore I think of Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard, or also known as the father of existentialism, and I think therefore I am of the philosopher René Descartes, that are contradicting to each other or to one another. That statements influenced the entire group of European philosophers and psychologists, changing their approach to this treatment.
All wonder why we are here and what our purpose is. These philosophical questions often become more pressing in the face of tragedy and suffering, as we try to make sense of something that appears so busy. These are the kinds of questions at the heart of Rollo's work. There are 7 views of human nature from Rollo. First, have capacity for self-awareness, expanding our awareness in realizing that we are finite, time is limited, we have the potential, the choice, to act or not to act. Meaning is not automatic, we must seek it. We are subject to loneliness, meaningless, emptiness, guilt, and isolation. Second is have freedom, responsibility, and choice. What are the possible reasons that people tend to blame others for their problems? We are free to choose among alternatives. We are responsible for our lives, for our actions, and for our failure to take action, blaming others for their problems. Third is strive for identify. Identity is the courage to be. We must trust ourselves to find our own answers. Our greatest fear is that there is a no self. Fourth is establish meaningful relationships. How do you work through a sense of a no self and feeling alone? We are alone, so we must give a meaning to life, decide how we will live, have a relationship with ourselves, and learn to listen to ourselves. And we need to create a close relationship with others. Fifth, search for meaning of life. What is the meaning or purpose of your life? Therapist trust is important in teaching clients to trust their own capacity to find their way of being. Meaninglessness in life leads to emptiness. Human being needs a sense of meaningfulness in their lives. Finding meaning in life is a product of engagement, which is a commitment to creating, loving, working, and building. Sixth is view anxiety as condition of living. What is the positive motivation of being anxious? Anxiety arises from one's strivings to survive. Existential anxiety is normal, an outcome of being confronted with the forgiven of existence, death, freedom, existential isolation, and meaninglessness. Lastly, the aware of death. If you only have 30 days left, what's your feelings? What will you do? That provides the motivation for us to live our lives fully and take advantage of each opportunity to do something meaningful.
Existential psychotherapy is based on a model of human nature and experience. It focuses on the concepts that are applicable to human existence, including death, freedom, responsibility, and the purpose or the meaning of the life. Existential therapy is for clients who are searching for the meaning of their lives, including examining whether their behavior is being influenced by social and cultural factors. Existential psychotherapy view human as having the capacity for self-awareness, experiencing tension between freedom and responsibility, creating an identity and establishing meaningful relationships, searching for the meaning, purpose, and values of life, and accepting anxiety as a condition of living, being aware of death, and non-being. Having the capacity for self-awareness means that as humans, we can reflect and make choices. We can expand our awareness through realizing that we are finite, that time is limited, we have the potential and the choice to act or not to act. Meaning is not automatic. We must seek it. We are subject to loneliness, meaningless, emptiness, guilt, and isolation. Existential therapy gives us our freedom to do what we want to do as we are the responsible ones for our own lives. And whatever the consequences may be, we have to be accountable or responsible for it. We must trust ourselves to search within and find our own answers. We, as humans, must therefore give a sense of meaning of life, decide how we will live, have a relationship with ourselves, and learn to listen to ourselves. Humans need to create close relationships with others. Search for meaning. Finding meaning in life is byproduct of our engagement, which is a commitment to creating, loving, working, and building.
Okay, in this part, I will be sharing with you some ideas I've learned, the information that I have gathered from different articles, from different resources that I have read from Rollo. So here is his counseling skills. So I have highlighted some of the major points that we will be using sooner kapag nandoon na tayo sa ating sitwasyon, or kapag nandoon ka na sa isang pangyayari that you are about to counsel or mag-a-advise ating mga estudyante. Okay, so here are the micro skills, the body language, and the movement, or what we call paralinguistics. Ang goal ng therapies or ang goal ng techniques na ito ay you are about to reach the heart of your client dahil bibigyan mo siya ng attention, bibigyan mo siya ng effort to win his or her heart para ma-build yung relationship nyo. You are not only teaching her mind or his mind, you are also teaching his or her heart. Okay, so in order for you as teachers to reach our students' heart or client's heart, dapat meron po tayong relationship muna sa kanila. So here are some important points to focus on. We will be focusing on human connection. These skills are also what we call the humanistic therapy dahil more on humanistic approach ang gagawin natin. Verbal and non-verbal communication strategies and the goals of it. So punta na tayo sa micro skills. So micro skills, here is the various skill patterns, active listening, both sender and the receiver, and the behavior of the counselor and the client. So, may encounter natin yung complex interaction. Pag sinabing complex interaction, verbally and non-verbally, may communication. Okay? So, here are some micro skills, no, na ating may encounter. So, ito yung dapat nating isaalang-alang. Okay? So, attending skills, it is a simple phrase for a complex collection of behaviors and abilities. Ito po yung behavior ng client natin or behavior ng ating mga estudyante na kanilang i-imply sa kung paano ninyo gagawin yung session ninyo, kung paano ninyo gaganapin or i-undergo yung inyong mga client. Ano ba yung response ni student? Ano ba yung response ni client mo sa'yo? So, ayun yung attending skills niya. Next is the listening skills, of course. Dahil meron po tayong communication, may communication si teacher, and meron din communication to your student or to your client. So, meron or kailangan ng listening skills, basic listening skills. We will be also focusing and selecting vital attentions, vital informations na i-imply ng ating mga clients, students, verbally and non-verbally. So, mamaya, masasama natin, matatakal natin yung ibang mga bagay na yun. And that is important. Okay? Sa influencing skills, of course, as a counselor or as a teacher, you are about to influence the mind and the heart of your student. Okay? Confrontation and challenging. So, you are about to confront. You are about to face. You are about to challenge your client. Kaya nga, ayun yung purpose natin. Dapat meron magandang way ng confrontation kasi paano masasolve ang problema kung walang confrontation? Paano natin nabibigyan ng solusyon ng kanyang mga pinagdadaanan, ng kanyang struggles without confronting it? So, in order for us to solve and to develop, we are about to confront and to challenge that student. Okay? In other words, in micro skills, it is about creating and developing a good approach to your client. So let's go to the body language and movement. Okay? Motor movement observations of all parts of the body are crucial since they can reveal a lot of information. Of course, your body, your gestures, or your expressions, merong mga silent messages dyan na hindi natin kayang sabihin verbally. Kaya, nagagawa natin or nai-imply na act upan na lang natin non-verbally. Okay? So, non-verbal expression like flushed face. Here, of course, feel of embarrassment and anxiety. Eyes open wide and mouth opening. Ibig sabihin daw po niyan ay surprise and sudden insight. Okay? Next, smiling. Of course, greeting, positive mood. Kapag nag-smile ka, gigreet ka, and masaya ka, positive yung mood mo. Next is the open mouth. Surprise, boredom, fatigue, and yawning. Biting or chewing of gums. Diba? Marami tayong na-encounter na ganyan na habang kinakausap mo, kagat-kagat sa kuko, kumakagat sa labi, merong kinakain, merong bubblegum sa bibig niya na kinakain. So, meaning nun, anxieties and bad habit ng tao. Short, you must be wise and knowledgeable enough to monitor and to discern your client's message through their manifestations. Sabi ko nga kanina, hindi lahat ng ideas, hindi lahat ng thoughts ay we can express verbally. Some of our insights or some of our ideas are taken through nonverbal expressions, gestures, or something. Okay? So let's go to the paralinguistics, or these are the tone and the gesture of the words. When speaking about various topics, the therapist pays attention to how high or how low the client's volume is. Of course, kung malumana yung sinasabi mo at mataas ang boses mo, meron yung message, merong mensahe, or merong feeling na kailangan nilang mailabas. So, paralinguistics. This includes the tone, the gesture of the words. Gaano kataas, gaano kababa yung pagkaka-deliver or deliverance of his or her messages, his or her words, his or her sentences, statements. So here are the hints to maintain congruence in communication. Of course, may communication tayo sa ating mga clients, meron tayong communication sa ating mga estudyante. So here are the hints to maintain why we should take this communication na consistent and na-maintain natin yung focus natin sa ating sarili, and of course, focus natin sa ating client. Okay? This part will be focusing to keep the counselor's verbal and non-verbal communication in line. This consistency can be maintained by regularly communicating verbal, non-verbal, and all other messages. So the following are the few examples of how to maintain this consistency. Okay? So I will be giving some examples na pwede nating mai-apply. So in terms of welcoming the client, in terms of welcoming your student, kapag mayroon na kayong session. Okay? So for non-verbal expression, nodding, smiling, inviting gestures, and open body posture. So, sample verbalizations natin dyan. Welcome, no? Please have a seat. Welcome! Please have a seat here. It's nice to see you again. No? So, for the expression of empathy, of course, for non-verbal expression, you are leaning forward, sensitive eye contact, matching non-verbal, sensitive timing, appropriate assenting face. So here are some of our verbalizations. What a frightening experience, no? And it must have been a very difficult time for you. And conversing to your client, pay attention to their non-verbal cues. Mahalaga yun. Merong message doon. Okay? Their expressions of emotions. Minsan, di ba, dinadaan na lang natin sa pabiro pero may laman. Take note of the person's facial features. Ito yung kanyang gestures, body posture, and other bodily indicators. Kasi may message dyan. So then, let the content of the speech get in the way of your non-verbal listening. So, kailangan nakikinig ka, na-maintain, may mga hint kang nakikita. Ay, ito yung gusto niya ibig sabihin. Pay close attention to your body language also. Hindi lang sa client mo. Ikaw rin na nagsasalita. Ikaw rin na nagli-lead at nag-a-advise sa kanila. So, pay close attention to your body language. Especially if it looks to contradict what you are saying. Sinasabihan mo siya, ini-encourage mo siya, pero yung mukha mo, hindi naman convincing. Diba? So, you have to maintain the consistency of it. Start noticing how various people present the same messages in different ways. Okay? May mga tao na iba yung expression nila. Same message. Halimbawa, si person A, natatakot siya. Pero yung salita niya tuloy-tuloy. Natatakot siya. Yung sitwasyon niya na galing siya sa trauma, tapos kinikwento niya na sa'yo, tuloy-tuloy lang yung kwento niya. Tapos natatakot yung mukha niya, ganito, ganyan. Kasi nga may trauma. Meron din mga tao na tawa lang sila ng tawa, kinikwento na nilang pabiro, pero nandoon yung laman ng trauma nila. So, people show different gestures with the same message. So, nandyan pa po yung mga skills na matututunan natin. Napakahalaga nito. Okay, so when it comes to active listening also, establishing trust, no? In the face of the client's inevitable mistrust, counselors need to establish their credentials of honesty, integrity, and reliability. So in order to build your trust, no? The trust of your client. So marami tayong kailangang pagdaanan, marami tayong kailangang matutunan. Okay? To sum it up, here is our illustration. No? Okay. So as we observe or as you can see here on your screen, may dalawang bilog and merong triangle. No? So ito po muna, these two circles. So at the center, no, ito po yung tinatawag nating macrocosm or the counselor-client relationship. So, bakit nasa gitna ito? Because it is vital. It is important. Why? It is important to build a relationship, close relationship to your client or to your student. Because if that client or if that student could not have a strong relationship to an individual, to you, personally as her or his counselor, he or she couldn't be able to apply a good and healthy relationship to other people. Okay? So, we discussed earlier kanina yung mga skills, yung mga bagay na kailangan natin na i-apply, maunawaan at maintindihan. So, here is a microcosm or the relationship of the client to the counselor or the counselor to the client. So, sa malaking bilog, ito po yung macrocosm or how we can relate to apply ourselves to other people. Ito na po yung environment natin, yung neighbors natin, teachers, classmates, friends, family, and many more na kung nasaan tayo. Lahat, paglabas mo ng bahay, sino yung mga nakakasama mo, sino yung mga nakakasalamuha mo, at ng client po, sino yung nakakasama niya, sino yung nasa paligid niya. It is important, it is vital, it is a must that we as a counselors or as a teacher, that we can create a good and healthy relationship mismo sa kanila muna. Meron silang good and healthy relationship sa'yo so that they could apply also this same with others. Okay, so to this triangle, let's assume na ito po yung client natin. Okay? Our clients could be a victim, could be the rescuer of themselves, persecutor of themselves. They can act as a victim, they can rescue themselves, and they can protect themselves. So, bakit may intention dito? Because the intention of these skills is not to be, the result ng session ay hindi para maging aggressive ng ating client, hindi maging passive, kundi maging assertive. The focus, the intention must to build, na ma-increase yung assertive level ng ating mga clients. Okay? So, that is for our skills, counseling skills, the micro skills, body language, movement, in Paralinguistics.
Now, we are going to discuss the role of the counselor and the counselee. We all know that counselor is the professional who gives counsel to the people, while the counselee is the one who receives the counseling. The first role of the counselor is to be authentic, no matter what happened. They have to engage seriously with what matters the most to the client and to avoid imposing their own judgments. The next thing that we have to emphasize is that the counselor must avoid bias and prejudice. They have to understand the client's meaning rather than their own and to recognize the client's assumptions. Above all, the counselors must know or value the meaning which the client creates in their own emotions, thoughts, beliefs, and personal history. While exploring the client's world, the therapist may consider the four-part framework encompassing the client's existence. First is the physical, social, personal, and the spiritual. The four-part framework that I have mentioned will simply inform the counselor or the therapist to understand the client's world in a better way. For instance, if the client never mentioned about intimate relationships, the therapist or the counselor will become aware of a deficiency in their understanding of the client's personal dimension. With that said, the existential approach seeks clarity and meaning in all dimensions: the physical, social, personal, and the spiritual dimension. The next is the role of the counselee. So if the client or the counselee view their problems as challenges of living rather than symptoms of psychopathology, or they view or search for meaning and in deeply personal philosophical investigations, probably the existential therapy would fit them the most or the best. And yes, to conclude, these are the 6 factors or key points to be considered in existential therapy. If you have questions, you can send messages in the comment box or you can just call our attention. We sincerely hope that you have learned something very important and relevant for today's topic about the Existential Therapy by Rollo. This is the end of our discussion. Thank you very much for listening and have a good day.